Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. I'm a bit street, aren't I? People are always saying that to me the first time they meet me. Jody, you're so street. Or maybe I mishear them and they're saying, Jody, you're so straight. It's not really me, is it? Give me a second and I'll change. That's better, isn't it? I may not be street, but I know a man who is. Adam, aka Blue Moose Racing, over on Instagram, who lives in Melbourne. He has loaned me a ton of watches for review over the last few years, and he sent me another 2 last week in the form of these Seiko Street Series Prospex Tunas. Now the Tuna is a watch that hasn't had nearly as much love as it deserves on this channel over the last 5 years or so. I've looked at endless turtles, countless samurais and a million SKX, but only one Tuna. Initially I was put off by the big diameter dimension, it's a 46mm watch, and the fact that it looks like a hockey puck. I should have known better though. Seiko are the masters of getting a big watch to wear like a small watch. Still looks like a hockey puck, mind you, and whether that's something you're into or not, only you can answer. Are these two any good? Let's flip the camera and find out. And there we are. There's your tuna sandwich for today then, an SKX 007 in between the two Seiko Street Series Tunas. It's not actually much bigger than the SKX, as you can see here. I will bring the 007 back a bit later on. I'm going to do a lume comparison between it, the Tuna, and another Seiko, just to see how Lume Bright compares across different Seiko watches. But for now, let's concentrate on these two. So I'm not quite sure why Adam decided to buy both of these Street Series Tunas. Maybe he just couldn't pick between the two, but I'm not complaining. That means I get to show you two for the price of one. This is the SNE547, predominantly green and black, I would say, that kind of dark grey polymer shroud here, but there is some colour. Not only is there that vibrant bit of orange on the second hand, but that orange is replicated. There's a kind of anodized ring around the case and an anodized ring around the crown tube as well. Now this one, if you take the shroud off, I'm guessing it's some kind of gunmetal IP there. You can see it's not silver like the white one is. The white one is the SNE545, identical in terms of specs and dimensions, but obviously different colours. Predominantly white, black and silver. I have to say, I've got a bit of a thing for this one. Not sure I could get away with it, not sure I'm quite street enough to manage it, but yeah, it is very good looking, I think. Again, slightly toned down second hand. It's a darker shade rather than the lighter shade on the green one, and it does have the same two colours around the case and around the crown tube. Like I said in the intro, 46mm in diameter, but do not worry about that. You'll see it on wrist in a minute or two. It looks great. 13mm thick with a 45.5mm lug to lug. How can that be possible? How can a watch be shorter than it is broad? If you look here, the lugs actually just sit north of that bezel shroud. Yeah, it wears remarkably well on my 7-inch wrist. I think it'll wear very well on wrists even smaller than mine. 22mm lug width. You see there's a bit of a flare though, because it's such a broad watch. That helps kind of tone the whole thing down, just kind of bring the angles down. And on the supplied silicone rubber strap, 93 grams, so it doesn't wear all that much either. This one, as I said, some IP coated stainless steel. It's got a screw on stainless steel case back, 200 meters of water resistance and a screw down crown, and it says so on the dial. That is a Divers, so this is ISO certified like all of the other Prospex models are. I assume that is some kind of polymer resin on the shroud there. Haven't been able to determine what the bezel material is made of. That is a flat hardlex crystal though, so it is Seiko's own proprietary mineral crystal with, I don't think there's any AR coating under there, do you? Yeah, so at this point I would normally talk about the case finishing, but I can't really show you the case finishing, can I, because of the polymer shroud. Now you can deshroud these things. Little hex head screws, one on one side and two opposite the crown, but why would you? The shroud is what makes a Tuna a Tuna. Now the crown is unsigned, but I'll give that a pass today because they have got that anodized ring around the crown tube and I quite like it. The bezel action is excellent on both of these watches. 120 click. Oh yeah. That is a satisfying bezel action, and everything just about lines up. Now I can't show you the movement today because it has a closed stainless steel high polished caseback, cracking looking caseback on both of these, and they must be fairly fresh because Adam hasn't managed to scratch either of them. The Seiko Great Wave style logo in the middle there, Prospex X divers 200 meters, just emphasizing once again the ISO certification, and that little V157 denoting the movement. Now this is a Seiko solar movement, accuracy of plus or minus 15 seconds per month. And if I pop up the charging chart here, you can see if you read down column C, if you leave this one on a window ledge or outside for 9 hours, you get 10 months of battery life. That seems like a reasonable deal to me. I can show you the silicone rubber straps though, and they are excellent on both watches. Once again, the wave appears on the bottom of each strap. There are enough holes there you could get it round a dog's leg, never mind your own leg. There's plenty of flexibility, and even though the top of the buckle is unsigned, the bottom of the buckle is signed, so again I'll give them a pass for that one as well today. The retainer, crucially, is not metal like it is on some of the other Prospex range. It's rubber, so much more sensible. I like the handset, very well proportioned, super long needle second hand with that pop of colour, and a counterbalance which is loomed, as you will see when I put the loom video in just a minute or two. Blacked out centres, so always gives the impression that the hands are floating. Baton shaped rectangular hands, but they are just chamfered off at the edges of them, which just softens them up nicely. I think suits that big round case perfectly. And round of applause to Seiko for one of the best integrated date windows I've seen on their divers in a long time. So we have got an applied date frame there, but nicely beveled, as you can see, a colour matched date wheel with white. That looks fantastic, and it's in the right place, bang on 4 o'clock. Looking across the watch, you can see a reasonable amount of depth considering it is only 13mm thick, which is relatively slim. You can hopefully see what I mean about those indices being applied, and also the little edges being chamfered off the hour hand and the minute hand. You can probably also see that there isn't any anti-reflective undercoating. You're getting a little bit of ghosting there. You're getting a little bit of bounce back from the sun. And let's give Seiko another round of applause for one of the best bezels that I have seen on their Prospex dive range in ages. This thing looks cracking. Have a look at that detailing up there at the 12 o'clock. It's a stepped bezel. You've got a lot of texture there on that left hand side, the silver. Lovely red triangle. Again, loom pip distinct from that. And all of the hour markers and the minute markers are etched and then filled with paint. It generally looks great. And there's plenty of grip available to your fingers, even if you were taking this one diving and had gloves on, thanks to that nice sawtooth edge. Very well machined there also. And from the other angle there, you can see the crown, you can see the step in the bezel, you can see how all of that works together, and you can see how it interacts with that nice anodized section. Again, a little bit of colour other than white. On to the loom, and Seiko's Lume Bright is well known and well regarded. However, I reckon it's always about a 7 out of 10. Never quite spectacular, but never disappointing at the same time, and I've done plenty of Loom Wars comparisons to back that up. This is actually pretty good here on its own. And it also does pretty well when I compare it to another couple of Seikos. That's my much more expensive SPB185 on the left, and the classic benchmark, the venerable SKX 007 on the right. If you turn the speed up on all three of these, you'll see that the SKX is showing its age now, and its price tag, I guess. It's the first one to fade, but the Tuna is right there at the end with the SPB185. That's it on wrist. I've got a 7-inch wrist, as I mentioned. Look, I'm not trying to convince you that it's small, but I am trying to convince you that it is eminently wearable. I guess the white one doesn't really do itself any favours. It is fairly noticeable. Let me switch over to the green. Slightly less in your face than its white cousin, that is for sure. Very, very comfortable silicone strap, this one, and thank goodness they have switched over to a rubber retainer. It probably won't last as long as the metal ones, but it won't be catching and scratching on pretty much everything like the ones on the Tuna and the Samurai do. Overhead legibility is excellent. The dial, of course, is a good size because the watch, of course, is a good size, and I'm a little bit in love with this silver black and white look, I must say. Outside natural light, I think this one looks great, and you can see the different textures on that bezel. But I am going to complain about the lack of anti-reflective undercoating on the Harlex crystal. You can see it quite noticeably there. That's 2 complaints in one, in fact. On wrist, not too heavy, very comfortable strap, short lug to lug, but it is still a big diameter dimension, and it is still a very large looking watch, even if it doesn't feel like a monster. What are my complaints today then? What are my moans and niggles? Well, I don't really have all that many, to be honest. Pretty much just the crystal. This one, as discussed, is Hardlex with no anti-reflective. I would love to have seen sapphire with anti-reflective. There is that age-old argument, oh, Hardlex won't scratch if you hit it off a rock when you're diving. But there's a clue in the name with these. Street series. Not many of these are going to see much hardcore dive action, I don't think, so sapphire would have been a welcome addition. And then there is the inherent problem with that street moniker. Are you actually street enough to pull one of these off? I don't think I'm quite street enough personally, but if you do like the colours and you're okay with this size of watch in terms of the diameter, I reckon these two are among the best Seikos that I have looked at in ages. $450 USD retail price, but readily available for around $350 USD. I think that's very fair, especially considering some of the nice touches that abound in this one, the bezel, those anodized metal features, etc. as well. The Tuna may not have had much love on the channel to date, but I'm trying to make up for it today by giving it plenty of love, including a third round of applause at the end. So there you have it, well done for getting this far. What would you like to watch next? How's about my original review of the Seiko Black and Gold Tuna, or the Arnie, its closest living relative? Thanks for watching, I'll see you soon.